Final Captain's Press Conference featuring Pretoria Capitals Captain Wayne Parnell, as well as the Sunrisers Eastern Cape Captain Aiden Markram. It is a hybrid press conference. We will take a few questions from both the room and online, but of course we will start in the room. So who would like to start us off?
Aiden, at the beginning of the tournament, you guys were seen as an underdog kind of team, but you kind of changed that around. What did you guys do right?
Well, if you look on paper, we probably weren't really, well, not a lot of people would have given us much of a chance coming into the comp, but credit must go to the guys in the squad. I think there's a lot of strong characters there and guys that will almost do anything to win, which is great to have, and those sort of attitudes I think take a team a long way. So we've been lucky to have those characters, and they've come through at important times for us, and hopefully we can go one more last one tomorrow.
Perfect. Who's next? Stu?
Just continue on that thing for you. The inclusion of Rudolph seemed to be a turning point. Can you describe what he provides both on the field for you as a captain, obviously, and what he does in the dressing room?
Yeah, he's great value. So he's a great guy to be around, but I think all of us know him quite well for the strong character that he is, and it's quite infectious, that sort of energy that he gives off. And having lost our first two games, we decided that we're probably going to need some strong characters now to hopefully turn things around, and you don't get much stronger character than a guy like Rudolph van der Merwe. So he's played a great role for us. Off the field he's great value, and on the field he's a proper fighter, and he's added a lot for us.
Aiden, it's probably been a short turnaround, but you have had a bit of time to let that innings sink in. Just what were the emotions after it? And I know you guys don't like being compared, but I mean, your coach said it was very AB-like with the way you played. So just how did you feel about that? And there was also a very touching moment of your father being quite emotional when you reached your milestone. Just tell us about that and how did it make you feel, just the whole experience actually.
Yeah, it was special. I never really thought I'd have the game to walk in at 4 and get 100 like other guys in the world have. So it was nice and a special moment. I think it's nice to have the family there and for them to experience it firsthand and not on the TV is quite a cool thing. My dad's a big, strong guy, but he's got a soft little heart, and probably why there was a bit of waterworks from his side. But it's great. It's nice to make them proud, and ultimately it's memories that you create, and for them to be a part of that was cool.
Just a quick on that. Did you do anything different, given that you said you didn't necessarily feel you have the game to come in at 4 and do that? Were there any tweaks, or was it really just like going on and playing a natural game?
Yeah, I try to keep it as simple as see-ball, hit-ball. I think because we had a good wicket at Centurion where the ball flies, that obviously helps a lot. So it was a combination of all of those things, I would say, but it started coming on really nicely. And I think once you got a hang of those conditions, you feel quite confident as a batter. So I think that helped quite a bit.
Cool. We're going to go colleague first.
Aiden, so once upon a time you were a youngster coming into a team with senior guys around you. Now you've got a team, you're the captain with youngsters like Marco Janssen, Jordan Helman, all of these guys coming in. Can you tell me what you learned from them with regards to their approach to the game and their fresh look at T20 cricket?
Yeah, it's very sort of free-spirited, which is great, and I think you have to be in this format. So they've sponged as much info as they can from the other sort of more experienced guys, and they're always asking questions as to how they can learn, how they can get better, what to expect, and things like that. So they've been really good. They've put their hands up in terms of performances as well, playing crucial roles at important times during the games for us throughout the comp. And they are still young, but they think about the game really well for slightly younger guys, and touch all the wood, I'm sure their futures are looking really good.
Just to follow up a little bit on that, this was kind of your first time captaining for a while. I'm guessing I'm not quite sure how long it will have been, but what about having the captaincy has changed you, improved your game? How have you adapted other aspects of your game because you captain?
It had been a while. I can't actually remember when last it was, but I suppose you feel that little bit of extra responsibility, and I think that helps quite a bit. That responsibility, you don't want it to paralyze you either. You still want to be quite free when you play, especially in this format. But that bit of extra responsibility and sort of trying to find ways always to win. Ultimately, that's what we want to do, and obviously it's about the enjoyment and things like that. But we all want to win. We all want to be in finals, and to have some sort of role in terms of a leadership role. To get to a final and to have been a part of it has been quite cool. I don't think it's really changed my game too much, but yeah, definitely that sort of desperation gets exaggerated quite a bit.
Cool. Over here for Wayne.
Bonnie, two questions. First, what's the latest on the injury? Are you coming tomorrow or not? Second, you guys have foot in the pedal from the word go, obviously, and how important to have the home final up in high altitude compared to if it was going to be elsewhere?
Yeah, I think on your first question, I'm making good progress. So we'll have to see tomorrow if I'm fit enough to obviously get into the 11. And then the second part to your second question, I think obviously playing in any sort of final, it's a once-off game. We're obviously playing a really strong side, and a side that we identified early on that would probably sneak through into the playoffs firstly. And I think playing at the Wanderers is going to be a great spectacle, but the wicket is obviously played a little bit different to the sort of normal Wanderers wicket, and also now we've had weather around obviously, so pitch has been covered for a couple of days, so I guess it's just about getting here tomorrow, assessing and just playing accordingly as well. I think our semi-final that we had here really showed that assessing and trying to get a total that was competitive was obviously the difference in the match.
Being on the top for a few days, few weeks, how do you approach tomorrow's game? Do you just go and see how it goes on the day, or there's a plan?
I think for us it's about the same sort of mantra that we've had throughout. It's about having fun. It's about entertaining people. I think that's the key messaging that we've had throughout. It's about being brave, having fun, and just coming out and just entertaining everyone. I think ultimately finals can either go one way where it brings out the best in people, but it can also paralyze people as well. And I think we want to err on that side that brings out the best.
Cool. Hi.
Wayne, just in hindsight, do you also believe things worked out well for you guys in terms of results, that you guys had in a relatively less demanding game, you really had your one blowout against the super giants, but then also are you also chuffed by the fact that you guys then recovered from that and then actually gained that much needed momentum for this last showpiece game as well? Are you chuffed with the mental fortitude you guys showed even after that could have been a big setback against the super giants?
I think that's been the sort of trait that I really enjoyed about this group, is whenever we've lost, we've been able to bounce back, and I think that's obviously a really good characteristic for any sort of team. We had a narrow loss here against JSK early on. We bounced back. We had a loss against Paarl Royals down in Paarl. We bounced back. Obviously against Durban, there was probably, in a competition, there's always going to be that one game that kind of doesn't really show how well you've played. That was probably the game. It was, and we've obviously reflected on it and assessed where we went wrong. It was probably the one game where we weren't clear on plans, and it obviously really showed. And I think every other game, even the two games that we lost, we had good plans, and obviously it just ended up on the wrong side. So again, we've had good momentum. Obviously beating Royals here, a very strong side as well. But it's a once-off game. Come tomorrow, and it's about rocking up and obviously assessing again, communicating, and just being clear on how we want to go about it.
Great. Stu?
Wayne, you captained a young Western Province team last summer. This is a more experienced side, a lot of established international players. Describe the difference in trying to get the best out of a young group and the best out of a group of guys like this.
I think there are a lot of similarities actually. I think my sort of way of going about it is trying to empower people. I think you've seen our lesser known guys really excel, and I think that's probably the key in this competition, is having your local guys, because obviously you've got 7 South African guys playing, and you can only have 4 pros. But I think the credit goes to the pros. Yes, they're great players, but they're really good teammates, and I think that's probably been the best thing that I've seen throughout this competition. And I think credit must go to our staff that have actually assembled this squad. With the Western Province team, obviously having young guys, you have them the whole season, so you can kind of watch players develop, and you can then nitpick and see how you have to approach people, because I think that like man management is probably the most important component to getting the best out of people. Whereas here we had a 8-day build up, and we had guys coming in every other day, so it was about trying to figure out who the kind of go-to guys would be, and where you could probably find 1 or 2 guys that even though they've been good players in the domestic setup, but there's always something more, and I think that's something that you kind of pick up as you kind of go along. And I think we've managed to actually find and take guys to another level, and I think that's been really impressive from both as a leadership group, but then also from the players as well, actually wanting to be in those situations.
Cool. I'm going to go to Ken, and then VJ, and then Khalid before we take a couple from online. Go Ken.
Wayne, as captain, how much have you enjoyed working with a coaching staff which they're 3 pretty softly spoken guys, not big ranters and ravers, 40 and Benke and Jacques Callister, and how important is that sort of sense of calm that they bring going to be heading into a final?
Yeah, I think it's actually been refreshing. Obviously, I've played with Jacques in the South African team, and like you obviously mentioned, not really one with lots of words and really outspoken, but behind closed doors, I think those little nuggets, I think also is pedigree. That's something that people latch onto. With 40, vastly experienced, obviously coached all over the world, and again just really calm and just really easygoing. And similarly with Benke as well, I think just the way that they think about the game is very different, but also quite similar. And I think as a leadership group, we've all kind of been on the same page with most of the stuff, which is quite refreshing, because I think sometimes there can be people trying to force their sort of ideas and agendas, but we've actually had a really good blend.
VJ?
When you have topped the table, and in a 16 league, comparatively smaller league compared to 8-team league or 10-team league, you think is there a case for the league toppers to be getting a direct entry into the final instead of having to play semi-final? It's a kind of reward, and this is an opinion I'm saying shared by quite a few reputed commentators as well.
Yeah, so I think obviously when we ended up the league stage at the top, it would have been easy for us to come out and say, oh, we deserve to get to the final. But this was a discussion that we had like the first day as well. And obviously no one had played a game yet, and we felt that with this, and we've seen it in our South African system previously with this 16 franchise system as well, where some teams, we won't mention names, they somehow sneak into number 4, and then you might play a semi-final in the Highveld on a good wicket, and then you beat the team that's first, and then you end up in the final. So we did feel that whether it's number 1 goes straight through, or there's a 1 and 2 player qualifier, and the loser of 1 and 2 gets an extra shot, because when you play 10 games and you finish first or second, you've done well, and I think you should be rewarded in some way. Maybe not to say that you go straight to the final. I still feel that if you have 2 bites at that cherry,
you need cushion to 2 matches too.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a better system in terms of, I think all teams would agree to that, but also in terms of TV rights and viewership, I think the league would want that as well.
When you have a very unique story to your career, coming onto the scene as a youngster, then leaving the Proteas setup, coming back later on, playing World Cups and SA20s, etc., at the highest level. What's been key from you, from your point of view personally, from a physical perspective, mental perspective, to continuously play at this high level?
I think the biggest thing since coming back for me is enjoyment. I think I probably went through a stage where I wasn't enjoying my cricket. I was playing because obviously I still love playing cricket, but I was always fighting, you know, certain things. But since going to England and coming back, for me now, the rest of my career is just about having fun. And I think if I can help, you know, younger players, because I'm not going to be here in 10 years' time. I'd like to still be here, but you know, you have to be realistic. And if I can see, you know, younger guys, especially a guy like Marco Jansen, he's very keen to learn. We've had a couple of chats, and I think if I leave the Proteas setup and I leave the South African setup, I want to see those younger guys coming through, doing well, dominating. I don't want to sit on my couch and watch these guys in, you know, 10 years time and be like, oh, what are they doing? It's always about trying to leave your workplace in a better state.
Great. Let's take some from online. We'll start.
Straight in.
To the guys online, just a reminder to please mute your monitors. And then we will take a question from Johan and then Amir.
American Final.
Let me see if Johan can hear us.
They have like a big screen somewhere.
Yes.
The guys on Zoom.
Yeah. COVID days.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, are there any other questions from the floor while the online component sorts itself out? We'll go Ken and Stu.
Aiden, just for you, I mean, it's quite interesting that the two teams in the final both have the two oldest coaches.
Wait, can I record that, please?
How have you enjoyed working with Adrian Perel? And I think it's the first time you've worked with him.
Yeah, I get on really well with Adi. I spent a little bit of time with him on the initial test trip in England when he was assistant coach at the Proteas, and then did a half a season with him at Hampshire as well. So we go quite a good way back, and I just love his sort of simplicity of how he goes about his things, and sharp sense of humour, and never short of a funny comment here and there, and also that nice old school approach where it's nice and simple. It's always very clear, and even at his young age, he's still extremely passionate. So that rubs off on the guys, and I think that calmness rubs off on the guys. And he's seen it all. He's been around for many years now, and I think that experience helps us a lot.
Great, Stu.
This is for both of you. What are your overall impressions of the competition? It's the last game coming up now. What do you two take away? I mean, you played big matches at both Proteas and in other competitions. Just what are going to be the takeaways for the two of you from these past 5 weeks?
It's a 5-letter word. Starts with a G, ends with a T. No, it's been obviously a great tournament. I think well done to everyone involved. Firstly, I think with a level of cricket and the standard of competition, I think it's only going to be good for cricket in South Africa. All the guys obviously got picked in the first year, you know, great for them. But I think there are a lot of other guys who are outside of these groups who will understand now what it requires to get into this competition. And there'll be a lot of people sitting at home watching and really saying that they want to be part of this. And I think that's obviously a great sort of testament to what's happened and all the work that you know, the league has done behind closed doors. But the actual cricket itself, I think it's a lot of teammates have become opposition, and I think obviously after this you'll go back and there'll be some great banter. But I think ultimately the cricket product it's been excellent.
Yeah, sorry, Luis. Yeah, I can't add too much more than that, but can only really speak on behalf of our players, and from the overseas guys to the local guys, they've loved every second of it. So I think it's been a nice breath of fresh air for supporters of cricket in South Africa, for players. It's gave a new energy towards cricket in South Africa, and it certainly is really exciting. So I think it's going to attract a lot more people in the years to come. It's run like clockwork. Everything's been run really well, and like Barney said, I think you have to take your hats off to people behind the scenes working really hard, and Graham and his team that have made it happen, and definitely exceeded expectations, if I'm going to be honest, but in a really good way.
Great. In the interest of the press conference today. So thank you very much, Aiden and Wayne. We look forward to hosting you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
It's loose. Thanks, James.